My name is Kristina Maurer. I am a cultural manager and exhibition developer and a producer, and I have been based at Ars Electronica since 2014. Working in these fields. I would also start by giving a very big thank you to the Video Città team for the fantastic organization of today's session. And it was really a great pleasure to be chatting with some of you already this afternoon, and to be now here to do like the final masterclass of the day. So let me just share my screen. So the topic I'm going to be chatting a little bit with all of you today is the topic of art-driven innovation. And I believe one of the aims of AGORÀ, of course, is to facilitate new connections and potential collaborations for artists and creatives based in Rome. And for that reason, I really wanted to dedicate the next 20 to 25 minutes or so to chatting with you all about some cultural frameworks that facilitate exactly these kinds of new collaborations, and especially collaborations between science, technology, and the arts, which means it's very much multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary collaborations. And transdisciplinary collaboration is really a topic that is very much at the heart and a main core mission of the institution where I'm based, Ars Electronica, and something we've been really exploring here for the past 40 years, since the inception of the Ars Electronica Festival in 1979. So for those of you who maybe haven't had a chance yet to come to Linz, just a few brief words about Ars Electronica. We are a platform operating at the nexus of art, society, and technology. And we are always kind of focusing on the current developments and future scenarios of how we are going to interact with technology, but also very much how we are designing, programming, and implementing it into our living spaces and into our daily lives, basically. And Ars Electronica is actually quite a big ecosystem. So we started out with the Ars Electronica Festival, which some of you may have had the chance already to visit, which started out in the late 1970s, where it really brought together a group of scientists, technologists, and artists who were really just starting to experiment with digital devices and with digital media as in their artistic practice and as artistic medium. So at that time, they were very much at the forefront and really the first one exploring this topic. And the festival over the past 40 years has now developed into a very open, large-scale platform that is really reaching out to the general public, that is very much focused on bringing together international artists, researchers, engineers, technologists, but also industry partners, universities each year in Linz, to really explore how technology is impacting society, and also kind of showing the critical questions that we need to be asking ourselves at the moment in how we are working with and how we are implementing those devices in our everyday lives. So it's really a kind of meeting point each year in Linz, or it has been, except for the past 2 years, of course, when we pivoted to an online festival and a physical festival in Linz due to the pandemic. The Ars Electronica ecosystem also consists of the Ars Electronica Center, which is really our permanent home base here in Linz. This is our museum that is working with many of the same artists that are involved in the Ars Electronica Festival, but has very much an educational focus and is really focused on working with regional audiences, with schools, with regional universities, on kind of breaking down those very complex topics in technology that are not always very easily accessible, and discussing them in exhibition settings in the Ars Electronica Center. The Ars Electronica Future Lab is our R&D facility. So this is really where our team of researchers and artists in the Future Lab are working with big companies on research collaborations, on developing media environments and kind of doing research into new technologies. And we also have the Ars Electronica Export Department doing international exhibitions, as well as the U19 Create Your World Festival. That is actually a huge kind of festival within the Ars Electronica Festival, really focused on the young generation. So on young creatives, on young entrepreneurs, on really the young generation that are already kind of taking technologies into their own hands and really interrogating them and getting really creative at a very young age already. But I think what's really essential about Ars Electronica and what's connecting all of our areas and all of the different departments that we are active in is really the shared belief that the technology that is really shaping every aspect of our lives by now really has to be critically interrogated and reflected with the human at its center. And that artists are really at the forefront in helping us go beyond the surface level of implications of technology, because they are, of course, inherently very inquisitive and go really in depth in exploring devices and tech in their artistic practice. So they are really also the ones who can help us in alerting us to potential pitfalls that are coming up to us. And I think this was really beautifully shown and presented also in the presentation that we saw just before by Next Museum, where we really got an insight into many of these fantastic works and fantastic artists and researchers who are doing exactly that. So this is really the core mission of Ars Electronica. And what I really wanted to focus on today is to go in depth with you into one framework that is fostering collaboration and that we have been involved in for quite a few years now. And that is the European Commission STARTS initiative. So Ars Electronica has explored quite extensively and for a few years now the idea that artists can take on a really active role in innovation processes, and that their involvement can really help in developing a human-centered approach to innovation. So basically it's the idea that if companies, if industries can be convinced to bring on artists into development processes, this can really help us to take a path toward a more sustainable and holistic approach to innovation that is really taking into account the environment, the living spaces, and also the ethical implications of technologies. And that's also one of the reasons why I wanted to focus on the STARTS initiative today. So STARTS stands for Science, Technology and Arts. And as I just mentioned, the European Commission has really identified this nexus as a potential with high potential for innovation processes in companies. So it really focuses on the idea that frameworks need to be implemented that allow artists to collaborate with researchers, with research institutions, and with companies to kind of develop artistic projects together, but also to maybe actually become involved with developments of industry partners and companies. And of course, at the heart of all of these ideas are the artistic pieces themselves, and also the themes and topics that the artists are touching. And for that reason, I want to dive a little bit into a short film that we produced. Before I talk a little bit about the actual frameworks that are in place and that are available for artists and creatives to get involved in and to start collaborating on these kind of interdisciplinary projects.
Artists have always been at the forefront of exploring new tools, techniques, and methods in their work. They are driven by an inherent curiosity to test and push the boundaries of their artistic practice. With the rise of digitalization and digital technologies, this curiosity was directed towards exploring an entirely new set of digital toolkits and devices. A community of artists, scientists, researchers, and engineers, guided by the same concerns and questions, emerged. How can new technologies become a medium for artistic expression? And how can their impact on individual humans, society, on the environment and our ecosystems not only be critically interrogated, but actively tackled? Today, artists are operating at the vanguard of exploring frontier technologies like artificial intelligence, biotechnology, or quantum computing, and have the potential to act as veritable innovation catalysts in fields such as robotics, the construction industry, or product design. They are expertly visualizing and formulating the questions we need to be asking ourselves as these technologies are becoming interwoven with the fabric of our lives. How can we develop an empathic approach to innovation that is humane, sustainable, and ethical, and focuses on the needs of humans and the preservation of our living spaces? The European Commission's STARTS initiative, launched in 2016, recognizes a potential in these artistic perspectives to become active drivers for sustainable innovation and aims to integrate them directly in the innovation processes to address urgent challenges in today's society. By fostering collaboration between science, technology, and the arts, the STARTS initiative responds to the calls to action launched through the European Green Deal, the Sustainable Development Goals, or the European Commission and Ursula von der Leyen's new European Bauhaus, and sets up frameworks for scientists, technologists, artists, and industry partners to start conversations and work towards challenging the status quo with more sustainable approaches to innovation. With technology now pervading and shaping almost every aspect of our lives, the STARTS initiative proposes a new understanding of sustainability centered around humanity. This involves a redefinition of the role of technology in society and an acknowledgement that artistic practices can contribute actively to its development. As we find ourselves in a moment of massive global socio-political and environmental challenges and disruptions, it becomes increasingly difficult to grasp how all these complex issues are connected to each other and affect us on a personal as well as global scale. Through geospatial and investigative data analysis, through high-level data visualization and art-driven interpretation of data, artists break down complex global and local challenges. They act as mediators, their artistic interpretation making data sets tangible and approachable for the general public, as well as supporting alternative approaches to decision-making processes in policymaking and governance. While parts of the artistic community take a bird's-eye view of global and local challenges, working with large amounts of data to visualize environmental, socio- and geopolitical issues, others react to the call to effect change in a more direct way. Architects, fashion designers, and artists working at the nexus of technology and science are pushing the boundaries of manufacturing and developing scenarios for circular economies, sustainable and regionally focused production chains, together with industry partners and local communities. Both the macroscopic approach of collecting large amounts of data through digital methodologies, as well as that of revolutionizing manufacturing models in regional communities and large industries, employ digital tools and machinery, and are thus inextricably linked to the machinations of the digital economy. Artists take on a critical role in highlighting the hidden impacts of these systems on human behavior. They alert us to biases in AI technologies, the spread of surveillance tech, make us aware of the hidden infrastructures built by tech giants, and develop scenarios for sustainable data storage. From tackling very concrete, tangible challenges in local communities and partnerships, to visualizing global challenges and issuing a call to take responsibility in collective action, from raising awareness about the impact of far-reaching digital infrastructures to providing hands-on tools and strategies that empower people to take their digital footprint into their own hands. Artists working in the STARTS field and the STARTS initiative lead the way to a sustainable approach to digital transformation.
So the reason why I really wanted to show this short video to you is to kind of show a bit the breadth and different approaches of the kind of areas and fields that the artists who are participating in STARTS are really diving into in their work. And it's really covers the areas of machine learning, bioengineering, visionary architecture, new ideas for urban planning, social innovation, ethical approaches to AI development, to AI programming. In general, the topic of humane technologies, autonomous mobility, sustainability in urban planning. So it covers really a huge scope and an area that I think many creatives and many artists might find their own work in, whether it's kind of in large scale data visualization or whether it's coming from the material research end of things, whether it's the creation of digital spaces and digital communities. So it really provides a framework for a kind of large number of ideas, and it also has at its heart kind of the creation of connections between artists and research institutions. And universities and companies to kind of work together and develop new projects together. And I think this kind of transdisciplinarity and kind of crossing of borders can be very interesting for both artists in their artistic practice, but also the other way around, of course, trigger kind of critical thought processes that artists are involved in, and that they really go into their artistic practice. And that's also kind of the reason why I wanted to focus on this topic today as part of AGORÁ, to kind of talk a little bit about one of the existing frameworks that you can kind of dive into and see if there are possibilities for collaboration, but to also kind of mention that there are quite a few of these collaborative programs and large-scale initiatives that kind of offer prizes, that offer grants and residencies that can help you in kind of reaching out to new potential partners and collaborators. And finishing the presentation, I will really just give you a very brief overview of the different areas of STARTS, and then we can go into a couple minutes of questions in case there are any. So in case you are working on any kind of artistic research projects that you would like to submit to the annual STARTS prize that is hosted by Ars Electronica and several partners on behalf of the European Commission, you are super welcome to submit. The STARTS prize is an annual prize that is really dedicated towards finding and singling out artists who are working in the fields of innovation, who are setting up innovative collaborations in all of these fields I just mentioned earlier, and gives an opportunity to submit basically to two categories: innovative collaboration and artistic exploration. The prize is open each year from January to March, so you can keep an eye out on the Ars Electronica channels on the STARTS prize in case you are interested in that. There are a large number of residency programs within the STARTS initiative that actually cover quite a few different areas, from the future of fashion design, from developing new models for adaptive spaces and for spatial design, from kind of developing new concepts for water management and sustainability in terms of water and ocean quality. So there are a few residency programs running at the moment, and there will be more coming in the future, specific thematically created residencies that you can apply to, that will also connect you with companies, but also with research institutions to develop a project. There are also regional centers. So over the past 6 years, the STARTS initiative has grown really from the more mobility-focused prize competitions and residency programs that are often very internationally geared, to also regional initiatives. So there are regional STARTS centers that are also issuing fellowships and residencies that you might want to apply to for different kinds of challenges. There was just an open call, for example, for a new regional STARTS center that focused on challenges such as circular economies, circular futures, reimagining city and nature, but also new modes of mobility. So there are always kind of new open calls going out. And lastly, I also wanted to mention digital innovation hubs that are involved in the STARTS initiative, that are focused, for example, on working together with robotics companies, or in the case of the Media Futures pilot that you can see here on the slide, working together with several research institutes on kind of the future of data governance and how we really want to kind of work with data and design ethical frameworks for data in the future. So that actually brings me to the end of this very brief introduction to the STARTS initiative, one of the collaboration frameworks, one of the kind of frameworks that Ars Electronica is involved in, where we really invite artists to collaborate with us, to collaborate with our partners on the development of new projects.